This video is brought to you by friend of the channel Squarespace. Stick around to learn more about them, as well as a special offer they're making available through my channel. Gamers! Latest this week in video games ever, right? Yeah, sorry about that. The honest truth is that I have been in bed these past few days, struck down by the flu. I was at the gym on Monday doing my regular chest day, 200 kilograms, 15 reps, 5 sets, you know how it is, when all of a sudden I started feeling a little woozy. Fast forward 3 days, 3 seasons of The Wire and 3 boxes of Kleenex, and your boy is feeling slightly better. At least well enough to get this episode out the door, because we have never missed a show since we started doing this 2.5 years ago, and I don't intend to start now. And it's a damn good thing too, because boy has there been some news this week. Some of it good, some of it bad, and some of it a little sad. That's right, you've likely heard the news by now, but Daedalic Entertainment, the studio behind the bafflingly awful Gollum game, announced this week that they would be shuttering their development operations and focusing on publishing efforts instead. In a statement provided to Polygon, Daedalic said that Gollum, quote, did not live up to the expectations we had for the game, end quote. Geez, that's putting it mildly. It feels almost cruel to recount it now, but the reality is Gollum was one of the worst blockbuster releases in recent memory. Even those AAA flops like Anthem or Fallout 76 or Redfall had redeeming qualities that some players could cling to, but Gollum was absent any of those things. Let's put it this way, if Gollum was released back in the Atari days, its cartridges would absolutely be sitting side by side with ET's out in that desert. Come to think of it, Gollum and E.T. kind of look alike, don't they? Anyway, as much as Gollum was utterly awful, it's always genuinely sad to see developers shuttered after a failed project, especially when it means job losses. Daedalic have said that they will try to place the affected staff in new roles throughout their network, but didn't rule out the possibility that those people might be out of the job entirely. It's a reminder of how high stakes the current game dev landscape is, where one flop can be enough to endanger your entire operation, so large are game dev budgets and so long are game dev timelines. As part of the announcement, we did get confirmation that the studio was hard at work on another Lord of the Rings game, though it was unclear if this was a sequel to Gollum. God, can you imagine? That mystery title has been cancelled, and I don't imagine that any other studio will be picking up where Daedalic left off, but Gollum certainly won't be the last Lord of the Rings game that we see. That's because Embracer Group recently bought the rights to Lord of the Rings for an undisclosed sum, and speaking during an earnings call, their chief of operations said that Lord of the Rings needs to be, quote, one of the biggest gaming franchises in the world, end quote. Uh-oh. He COO'd on, quote, we own Lord of the Rings, and we know we need to be exploiting Lord of the Rings in a very significant fashion, and turning that into one of the biggest gaming franchises in the world, and that's obviously something we're going to do, end quote. Ew, gross. Hearing a business dude at an earnings call say that Lord of the Rings needs to be exploited in a very significant fashion really makes the skin crawl. One of those saying the quiet part out loud sort of moments that the PR team will no doubt want to chat about later on. Everything about that statement sucks, and personally, I think if that's how Embracer Group is planning on approaching the Lord of the Rings license, then I think we should expect plenty more Gollums on the way. Turning now to other news, the preliminary injunction hearing between the FTC and Microsoft has concluded, and the judge is currently deliberating, but luckily the finale for the proceedings packed just as much punch as the rest of it. At one point, the court was reviewing documents submitted by Sony, and they were meant to be redacted with a proper redacting pen. Unfortunately, someone thought a Sharpie would do the job, and they were very wrong. As a result, a bunch of confidential information was revealed because you could just read through the black ink and see the words underneath it. What did those documents reveal? Well, we now know how much it costs to make both The Last of Us Part 2 and Horizon Forbidden West, and how many staff worked on each game. The Last of Us Part 2 was the work of some 200 full-time employees, not including external support, and set Sony back a cool $220 million, while Horizon came from a studio of around 300, not including external support, and cost about $212 million to make. Are those numbers surprising? Not in the slightest. You can basically look up headcounts of most studios and then do simple math for their salaries times the number of years a game is in development, and you get a pretty good guesstimate on overall development costs. Still, it's pretty funny that this confirmation came as a result of someone looking at an obviously failed redaction and thinking, this is fine. One interesting thing to check out of the trial was a hint at what's in store for Nintendo's next console. Activision boss Bobby Kotick was exchanging emails with Nintendo boss Shuntaro Furukawa, and in one of those emails, Kotick said, quote, given the closer alignment of Generation 8 consoles and our previous offerings in PS4 and Xbox One, it is reasonable to assume that we can also create something attractive to the Switch's next generation, end quote. What he's saying is that the next Switch is probably going to be as powerful as a PS4 or an Xbox One. Hardly a revelatory statement, but it's not like Nintendo is spilling the beans on this stuff right now, so we'll take what we can get, I guess. Trial also revealed that Xbox was very thirsty for acquisition targets, at one time considering Sega. This has led Sega to comment on the matter publicly, stating that when it comes to the matter of being acquired, their position was, quote, "not now," end quote. Fair enough, but that's a pretty clear never say never if I ever heard one. Pivoting away from that trial but staying with Xbox, Rebecca Valentine of IGN filed a deep dive investigative report last week revealing that Perfect Dark is just about as screwed as we all expected it was, and we absolutely should not be expecting it anytime soon. Valentine spoke with 13 sources familiar with the matter, and they revealed that Perfect Dark is essentially still in the pre-production phase, with very little progress having been made since that reveal trailer some 3 years ago. Part of that's owed to mismanagement by the original developer, The Initiative, who billed themselves as a steady hand comprised of industry veterans, but who have since proven incapable of getting the show on the road. They were originally partnered with a studio called Certain Affinity, but that relationship bore little fruit and was terminated around the same time as The Initiative started losing huge numbers of staff, to the point where nearly 50% of their employees had left in an 18-month period. Crystal Dynamics were eventually brought in as a partner, but that meant all new headaches, as trying to align the efforts of two studios is always fraught since creatives will often see things differently. The natural attrition at The Initiative, coupled with the size and experience of Crystal Dynamics, has meant that Crystal Dynamics are apparently in the driver's seat now, and sources suggest that this is much more a Crystal Dynamics game than it is one from The Initiative. More recently, it seems the project has made some progress, with Xbox studio boss Matt Booty having reviewed a build in May, and he says things have turned a corner, though to be fair, I doubt he'd be out there like, shit's fucked. It's his job to put a positive spin on things after all, but his assessment does seem to be backed up by Valentine sources. There's every chance that we will see a Perfect Dark game at some point, but that is not going to be anytime soon. And from the sounds of things, a release date of 2025 or even 2026 is looking like a best case scenario at this point. One final piece of Xbox news, the fantasy game currently in development at the Hitman studio IO Interactive, that may be an Xbox exclusive. The title was first revealed in a Windows Central report, which claimed that the game was going to be an Xbox exclusive, but evidence submitted in that preliminary injunction hearing backs up that claim, with one document in particular saying that the game will go out under the Xbox Game Studios publishing label, all but confirming its exclusive status unless Phil Spencer has a sudden change of heart. This is apparently a fantasy-themed RPG shooter, and it's being developed in parallel to the James Bond game that the studio is also working on. After the phenomenal success of Hitman, it's nice to see this studio both doubling down on what they're great at and stretching out into some new territory. Looking forward to seeing what they got cooking. Alright, it's remake time, everybody. The block where we talk about the remakes. There's so many of them these days that I feel like we should make it a recurring segment, like the old no fucking thanks. God, I missed that segment. Those are great days. For now, let's kick off with the granddaddy of remake rumors, Red Dead Redemption. There were rumors that this was in development at around the same time as the disastrous launch of the GTA Trilogy remaster, but after how badly that went, Rockstar apparently canned the project. Fast forward to last week when the Korean ratings board listed a rating for a title called Red Dead Redemption, indicating that the product would be coming to consoles. Why would the Korean ratings board be rating a game that's already been out for a decade if it wasn't some sort of remaster or remake? Things got even crazier this week when Colin Moriarty of the Sacred Symbols podcast said that he had personally seen information from a trusted source that this remake or remaster is on the way and that the project was actually quite far along, with a potential reveal as soon as August of this year. There have been other minor leaks bubbling up to suggest that all of this is real, one of which goes so far as to say that this is not a remaster but is actually a full-scale remake, assumedly relying on a lot of the game's systems and assets already developed for Red Dead 2. As exciting as all of this is, we need to remember that this is just a rumor, and we should absolutely take it with a bucket of salt until we get some official confirmation. Much the same could be said of this next remake rumor. Kotaku are reporting that Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, aka the best Assassin's Creed, it's getting a remake. Kotaku claims to have two sources who have confirmed this for them, but they say the project is still in early stages and will utilize a lot of the work that's gone into the utterly doomed and cursed Skull and Bones, a game that still threatens to be vaporware even though they keep releasing a new trailer for it every 6 months. If this rumor is true, it would be extremely ironic, as Skull and Bones is essentially just Black Flag without being able to walk around on land. so you have to wonder why Ubisoft didn't just cut out the middleman and skip straight to remaking Black Flag in the first place. The final remake rumor is a funny one, but a welcome one. Jeff Grubb of Giant Bomb is reporting that a Final Fantasy IX remake is on the way. This one was first hinted at by that infamous Nvidia leak some time ago, but recently Jeff has doubled down on it, saying, quote, "I will say I heard very recently, once again, Final Fantasy IX remake is real. That is real and happening," end quote. It's nice timing because recently a group of artists and developers released a 25-minute proof of concept for what a Final Fantasy IX remake could look like, and you know what? It looks pretty damn great.
Wanna come with us to see the nobles? Oh my, these children are causing quite a ruckus.
A quick lightning round to finish off. Warhammer 40k Darktide just got crossplay. If you're like, what the hell? The game's only out on PC. Why would it need crossplay? Then you, my friend, are all over it. But there is a good explanation, and that is that the Steam version, which people have bought, and the Game Pass version that people bummed off Phil Spencer, they're not integrated, meaning that if you were on Steam but your buddy's on Xbox Live, then you couldn't play together. That gap has now been closed, allowing the PC Brotherhood to fight the Chaos Legions united, but more importantly, this does set up for the eventual console releases of the game, which Fat Shark is still hard at work on and have not set a date for yet. Fingers crossed the console releases coincide with a big content update and systems overhaul, because Darktide has some of the best moment-to-moment gameplay of any shooter I have played. The rest of the game was just a mix of broken and or unfinished. If you're looking forward to The Sims 5, then I've got some maybe good but probably bad news for you. It looks like it's going to be free to play. The reveal comes courtesy of Sims Community, who spotted a job posting that describes the title as free to enter, which could mean a lot of things obviously, but it definitely falls into that free to play bucket. On the one hand, this could be great, as a lower barrier to entry would make The Sims 5 easier to check out, but on the other hand, most premium titles that have made the transition to free to play have done so at the expense of their long-term players' satisfaction, as in-game stores will usually charge stupid sums for what used to be earnable after that upfront price tag. Halo Infinite is the best example of this, but there are others, of course. Personally, I'm not worried. You know why? 2 letters, EA. These guys have never let us down before when it comes to microtransactions, and I can't imagine they're going to start now. Hungry for some Psychonauts 3 news? Well, get ready to starve, because this week's series creator Tim Schafer confirmed that Psychonauts 3 was not in development, or if it was, he's not working on it. Speaking to the Crescent YouTube channel, Schafer said that while he's not working on Psychonauts, he is excited to reveal his next project soon, likely later this year if all goes to plan. So expect that at either Gamescom in August or the Game Awards in December would be my bet. Whatever it is, we'll be here for it. Tim and his team are an incredible group of creatives, and pretty much anything they put out is a surefire bet. Bethesda announced that AMD Hardware would be the official hardware partner for Starfield. Okay, fine, nothing wrong with that. Bit of competition for Team Green, buy a red GPU and get Starfield thrown in for free. What's not to love, right? Wrong. As part of this deal, DLSS will not be available in Starfield, only the vastly inferior AMD FSR. That blows. Starfield will run worse for most people due to this deal. Ridiculous. Good news though, a pro modder who has deployed DLSS to a number of games before has promised to roll out a DLSS mod during Starfield's early access window. Try putting that in the Creation Club, Bethesda. E3 is dead. Don't worry, you haven't accidentally clicked on a video 6 months old. This new E3 is dead headline comes courtesy of the LA Tourism Board, who in their planning documents list the cancellation of E3 2024 and 2025 in their forecasting. This shouldn't come as any surprise, as the cancellation of this year's event was the clearest possible death knell for the once iconic industry showcase, with Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest now filling the void, albeit in a very scaled down form. It still pains me every time I have to say it, but E3 ain't ever coming back, and I think we're all a little worse for that fact. And finally, some good news. You'll remember Hunt Showdown? If I asked you that question a little while ago, most of you would have been like, nope. But more recently, the game has had a pronounced upswing in popularity that may have put it on your radar. The game got a meaty update last week that pushed the game to its highest ever concurrent player count, nearly 45,000 people, and since then those numbers have not declined. That's surprising because Hunt is a very intimidating game to jump into, and to see so many people sticking with it is amazing. I remember reviewing Hunt back when it was struggling to crack like 2k concurrent players, and there was every chance that it would be delisted or whatever, so it's fantastic to see Crytek's commitment to it pay off like this. Hunt is a genuine certified classic. There is nothing else like it, and if you haven't checked it out yet, you absolutely should. I'll leave a link to my review below the like button. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, it's very often that I'm reporting on video game delays, but it's a red letter day when I get to report on one arriving early. But that's exactly what's happening in the case of Baldur's Gate 3, which was originally scheduled to arrive at the end of August, but will now arrive on August 3rd for PC. Why they're doing this? Well, I'll give you one hint. It starts with Star and it ends with Punk. Wait, that's not right. Starfield and Cyberpunk's Phantom Liberty expansion are both huge releases dropping in September, and clearly Larian would like to give those a little breathing room by shipping early. It's a smart play because Baldur's Gate 3 is huge, over 70 hours for a basic playthrough, with over 170 hours of cutscenes to support all the decisions you'll be able to make along the way. If this launched on August 30th as planned, just a day before Starfield's early access launch, you can definitely imagine how this one might get left on the shelf as gamers prioritize one beefy RPG over another. But chill up, what about PS5 owners who won't be able to play Starfield? First of all, you can play it through xCloud or GeForce Now, probably. That's not confirmed, but it's very likely. Secondly, Baldur's Gate 3 is dropping for the PS5 on September 6th. That is a little later than originally planned, as the team have said that they need a little more time to polish the game. Fair enough. That is a great alternative to Starfield if you're looking for a mammoth RPG to sink your teeth into. Finally, what about Baldur's Gate 3 on Xbox? What's the release date for that? Well, unfortunately, that's still a big fat question mark. See, a core part of Baldur's Gate 3 is couch co-op, and the problem is that Larian have been unable to get the game running smoothly on the Xbox Series S console. It's a very tangible example of what people have called out at the start of this generation, the idea that the S is an albatross around Xbox's neck, holding it back from pushing technical boundaries. But for what it's worth, Larian are confident that they can overcome these challenges, and Microsoft have provided hardware engineers to Larian to help them get it over the finish line. Baldur's Gate 3 definitely will come to Xbox Series X and S, and it will be feature complete. We just don't know when that'll be. Hey, remember Fort Solis? It was that broody sci-fi thriller revealed during last year's Summer Games Fest, the one with like 6 other broody sci-fi thrillers showcased. This is the one that has that stellar voice talent on board, people like Troy Baker, aka Joel, or Roger Clark, aka Arthur Morgan. This one is still looking a little mysterious, but at least we've got a release date for it now, August 22nd for PC and PS5. No word yet on an Xbox port date, but it is planned for sometime in the future. Atomic Heart was a huge hit earlier this year, and its first DLC expansion is on the way. It's called Annihilation Instinct, and if the trailer's anything to go by, then this certainly isn't some minor update. It showcases new enemies, new weapons, new locations, new bosses, and the same old vending machine. I guess it just wouldn't be the same without her, right? The trailer is actually a release date trailer, revealing that the DLC will arrive on August 2nd for all platforms. This won't be included in Game Pass though, so if you do want to play it, you're going to have to buy it or the Gold Pass, which may be the best way to do it since there are 3 more DLCs planned. If you liked XCOM but wanted it to go a little deeper on the whole grand strategy and base management stuff, then you might be interested in Xenonauts 2. This one just got a release date July 18th, where it will launch into early access, exclusive to the PC for now. 2 words: cat game. There have been many games starring cats, Blinks, The Lion King, that old samurai Pizza Cats game on the NES, but the term cat game now belongs firmly to one game and one game only: Stray, the indie darling that took the cat-loving world by storm when it launched last year, exclusive to the PS5 and PC. Well, good news, Xbots, your suffering is over, and Stray will come to nuzzle at the feet of your fridge-shaped console on August 10th. Enjoy yourselves, it is a really nice time. Speaking of expiring exclusive windows, Scorn is getting ready to penetrate your PS5. Damn man, can I say that? Austin, if we get demonetized, I'm gonna blame you for not editing that out. Scorn was divisive as they come, a very ordinary game by most metrics, but visually you'd struggle to find many games that have half as much power, presence, and purpose. The art design here is top-notch, and the design of the puzzle box worlds is far more deliberate than their surface-level mechanics might suggest. This is true art house stuff. Love it or hate it, this is gonna make you feel something, so if you're on PS5 and you wanna give it a crack, you can do so in Northern Fall, no specific date yet. Cocoon is from one half of the team behind Limbo and Inside. This guy set up his own outfit, and this impressive looking puzzler is his debut title. This was revealed a little while ago, but now has a release date September 30th for all platforms. Okay, I don't really know what this next game is, but I do know that I plan to base my personality on it if and when it releases. Roll it, Austin.
Lots of people lost things in the blackout. I was lucky. I just lost a job.
This is Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth, and it's being published by Annapurna Interactive. This is the hit-making label behind bangers like Outer Wilds, Stray, Neon White, Solar Ash, and more. The reveal trailer here gave away basically nothing. For all we know, this could be a point-and-click detective game or a kart racer. I'm hoping for the latter, but I'll begrudgingly accept the former. This teaser did not provide a release window, but given the enduring appeal of Blade Runner, I'll hazard a guess to say that we won't mind waiting as long as it takes. I'll keep you posted on this one. No delay announcements this week, but sadly there was one game decommissioning. The Cycle Frontier is being taken offline again. This is sort of the second time that this happened to this game. It was originally called The Cycle, and that was a PvEvP battle royale game that never really took off. So the devs relaunched it as The Cycle Frontier, which is actually an extraction shooter similar to something like Tarkov or Hunt Showdown. The problem was that unlike Tarkov, it was free to play, and that meant hackers. This game was riddled with them to the point where, in announcing the sunsetting of the game, the dev team pointed to the corrosive influence of hackers and their impact on the game's playability and reputation. It's a funny time to be exiting the market just as new entrants like Arc Raiders and Marathon are about to make their entry. The Cycle Frontiers is still playable now, but will be taken offline on September 27th. It will not be playable by any means after that, and the developer, Jaeger, will move on to other projects. Sad times. And that's everything that got announced or delayed this week. Right, Austin?
Actually, chill up. That's right, you know, there's only one reason I'm back, and that's to let you all know that the next Guild Wars 2 expansion has been announced. It's called Secrets of the Obscure. We're getting new maps, new encounters, a whole new reward system, and new abilities for the flying mounts, which you'll need because the entire expansion is going to take place in the sky. The thing I'm most excited about is some of the combat changes and new weapon options for every class that'll bring an unprecedented level of buildcraft to the game. It's a whole new self-contained story arc as well, involving wizards versus demons, so you don't even have to play all the old stuff to get caught up. Better yet, the expansion releases in less than 2 months on August 22nd. Look, it's always a good time to get into Guild Wars 2. It's a fantastic MMO, especially if you need a break from Destiny. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, if I don't pass the show back to Chill Up now, I don't think I'll be allowed to speak on here again. So, back to you, boss.
So what came out last week? Not a whole lot, to be honest. There was that new wrestling game, AEW Fight Forever. I don't think anyone was expecting a Game of the Year contender out of this one, and it's a good thing too, because it's apparently fine. It's that 6 to 7 out of 10 you'd expect from most AA sports stuff, really. Steam reviews do put this at a mostly positive 72%, but OpenCritic has this at a weak 65. IGN put it at that 6 out of 10 mark, saying, quote, AEW Fight Forever may have the audacity to challenge the current king of wrestling games, but despite its fun-loving spirit, strong sense of style, and solid fundamentals, it fails to execute on a level that comes anywhere close to its potential, end quote. Everybody 1-2-Switch is famous for testing so badly with audiences that Nintendo had to significantly delay the title. It looks like that hasn't helped much though, as 1-2-Switch is currently sitting at a weak 60 on OpenCritic, and that number doesn't really speak to the spread of scores here, like Metro Game Central's 4 out of 10, quote, a game whose very existence is absolutely baffling, with a tiny collection of completely uninteresting minigames that remain dull and unimaginative no matter how many people are playing them, end quote. At the other end of the spectrum, there were scores as high as 8.5, like Press Start, who wrote of it, quote, at the end of the day, everybody 1-2-Switch attempts to shake up the formula of its predecessor by introducing second screen games and upping the potential player count considerably, and it does a decent enough job of it, end quote. Bottom line, I think if you're looking for a party game, you maybe want to wait for that Wario one coming out soon. That Ghost Trick remaster released, and let me tell you, this thing is absolutely spectacular. Animations, writing, puzzles, presentation, the whole thing is just 10s across the board. I am loving it, and I am not alone. The title currently sits at 98% overwhelmingly positive on Steam, and critics have it at a mighty 88 on OpenCritic. PlayStation Lifestyle scored this one a 10, saying, quote, Ghost Trick's cohesion is why it's so special. The gameplay connects cleanly to its story, which ties together neatly and wraps up so well with an unforgettable, heartstring-pulling twist, end quote. Speaking of heartstrings, one final shout this week is for Dave the Diver. This released last week and has really crushed it. It's a clever splicing of underwater exploration and fishing by day, and at night you take your catch and serve it up fresh in the sushi restaurant that you own and manage. I played the demo for this a while back and really loved it. Perfect vibes, and the game was really nailing both of its very different gameplay loops. The final product is reviewing spectacularly well, 96% overwhelmingly positive on Steam and a mighty 89 on OpenCritic. IGN scored this one a 9 out of 10, saying, quote, Dave the Diver is an aquatic adventure RPG that's wholesome, wonderfully complex, and delightfully hard to put down, end quote. If you're looking for something low-key and downbeat ahead of a massive release season, then this might be just the ticket. So what's coming out this week? Not a whole lot. It's a theme we should settle into for the coming period, as July is very lean indeed. A moment of pause before the big hitters start rolling out in August. This week though, 2 shouts. The first is Synapse, which arrived on the 4th, exclusive to the PSVR 2. It's a VR shooter with voice work from David Hayter and Jennifer Hale, aka Solid Snake and Naomi Hunter, respectively. Nice to see them reunited in some form, though a Kojima-directed Metal Gear sequel would have been preferable. Reviews for this have already dropped, and it's meant to be pretty solid, 75 on OpenCritic. Eurogamer recommended it, saying, quote, limited enemies and environments don't hamper some of the best VR blasting out there, end quote. Only other release this week is for The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie. This is a long-awaited localization of a 2020 released JRPG. Chances are, if you know what this is, then you don't need me to explain it to you, but for everyone else, make sure you do some Googling before jumping in, because this entry is the concluding chapter in a multi-game arc, and probably isn't the best place to start if you're new to the series. This one releases for PlayStation, Switch, and PC today. Hey, put this on your radar.
Agent, congratulations on being selected for your first field mission as the world's leading provider of paranatural containment services. S2P values the safety of our assets, employees most of all. Unfortunately, one of our research bases has gone dark. We need you to uncover why.
A little while ago, a studio by the name of Ocean Drive released the wildly ambitious Lost Eidolons. It was essentially Fire Emblem, but from a way smaller dev team and with more of a Game of Thrones vibe. It was a success, getting solid reviews and putting the newly minted studio on the map. Well, that studio is back with a much leaner and very different package in the form of Blackout Protocol. It's a sci-fi top-down co-op twin-stick shooter with persistent roguelike elements. Yes, that is ticking a lot of sub-genre tick boxes, but it's never been a bad time running around shooting aliens with your friends, or at least it's pretty rare that that's a bad time. This one has some interesting gameplay hooks, like the whole lights out thing, with most of the action being illuminated by your flashlight and muzzle flash. It's also got a panic meter, with each character slowly buckling under the weight of it if you don't take proper steps to keep calm. To top it all off, there's friendly fire, and I'm sorry, but shooting your mates is always more fun than shooting the enemy. I don't make the rules. This one is hitting pretty soon actually, July 20th, exclusive to the PC during an early access launch period. This is a good dev team who are worth keeping an eye on, so if you want to bet long on this one, you may want to wishlist it. I've left a link to it over on my Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff I've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Happy Sort of Free Stuff Day. It's the first week of the month, which means it's time to get yours. And kicking things off is Epic, who right now are giving away the excellent Grime. It may look kind of gross, but believe me, this is actually a very capable 2D Souls-like that also just got some free roguelike DLC. I know this isn't a AAA headline grabber, but trust me, this one's worth looking into. What about Prime Gaming? Well, Diablo 4 fans rejoice. Right now, Amazon are giving away free in-game items for the latest entry in Blizzard's iconic ARPG looter. What are those items? Well, it's actually just items, singular. And what is that item, you ask? Well, it's horse armor? God damn it, Todd. It's been like 20 years and the industry still lives under the short shadow that you cast. Outside of that, Amazon are giving away a bunch of games in preparation for Prime Day, including stuff like Prey, Neverwinter Nights, and Baldur's Gate 2. Not a bad bit of swag, so grab them before they disappear. And do keep an eye out for Prime Day on the 11th of July, as there's a very good chance that Amazon will throw in a few extra free titles since they did that last year, and that's how we all got the Mass Effect Remaster Collection for free. Thanks, Uncle Jeff. PS Plus got its monthly refresh, and it's one hell of a month actually, so long as you enjoy shooting stuff. Call of Duty Cold War is there. I'm not one for the multiplayer, but the single player side of this is perfectly playable, and it actually has some pretty cool missions. Definitely worth downloading if you have the 700 gigabytes hard drive space needed to download any modern Call of Duty game. The other shooting game is Alan Wake Remastered, Remedy's cult classic given a new lease on life thanks to Epic fronting the development cost for a full-scale remake. If you haven't yet checked out this eccentric, off-kilter Stephen King-inspired thriller, then there's never been an opportunity to do so, or a more convenient time since the sequel hits in October, and you're definitely going to want to have played the first one before diving into the second. Finally, Sony is serving up something without guns. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Endling Extinction is Forever is a quaint narrative-led 2D side-scroller that tells the story of a mama fox trying to keep her cubs safe. If you like stuff like Limbo or Inside, there's a good chance you'll like this too. We got that Game Pass refresh hot off the presses. I mean, there's GTA 5, but come on now, you're gonna tell me you don't already own this on like 5 different platforms? Insurgency Sandstorm is a very capable competitive shooter if that's your thing. Tectonica is an early access automation game like Factorio or Satisfactory, but set on a hostile alien planet. Looks pretty cool. The most interesting inclusion though may well be Exoprimal, which launches on the 14th for PC, PlayStation and Xbox. This one is, yeah man, I don't know. I hope it works out since it's fun, but it's also a very risky bet for Capcom. It's such a weird premise that I can definitely see plenty of people bouncing off this. Its inclusion in Game Pass is a great move, making it easier for people to take a punt on it. I'm pulling for it and I'm looking forward to seeing Austin's review of it, which will appear on this channel. I'm away on vacation for the next month, so Austin's going to be stepping in to help out while I'm away. We'll talk more about that next week. And finally, Games with Gold. It still exists, and just when you thought you could count it out, it comes in huge with Darkwood, the cult classic survival horror title that people went absolutely nuts for when it launched back in 2017. There's also something called When the Past Was Around, which is a arty point-and-click adventure game, meant to be pretty good as well. So there you have it, a rare W for Games with Gold. Certainly don't see that every month, do you? Let me ask you something. Are you still playing Diablo 4? I am. I'm level 52 and I just finished Act 3. To say that I'm taking things slow is a bit of an understatement, so perhaps it was my current infatuation with Diablo that made this week's feel-good story of the week catch my eye. If you live in any major city, you might have seen a rather novel marketing campaign for the game. Billboards welcoming you to hell no matter where you might be. So if you were in New York City, it'd read, "Welcome to hell, New York," a sign that took on all new meaning when the New York sky was literally red owing to the Canadian wildfires. Anyway, the billboards were all pretty harmless fun, unless of course, you took offense on behalf of your god. One Melbourne-based individual saw the sign and lodged a complaint with the Australian Advertising Standards Board, claiming that it offended Christians and Catholics by promoting evil. I mean, technically yes, promoting Activision Blizzard titles? Sure, but I think he meant something different. They then bizarrely went on to say that the reference to hell reminded them of living in lockdown during the pandemic. Okay, buddy, sure. Sadly, this person found no justice from the Advertising Standards Board, who quickly dismissed the claim by noting that references to hell and demons were rather commonplace across advertising or even in sports teams' names. Plus, they also rather helpfully pointed out that hell is in fact fictional, which I'm gonna guess only made the claimant that little bit more mad. Alright nerds, we are done here. Sorry again for the show being so late this week, but I really did need that time in bed to recover. But we are back at it now, and we will stay at it even while I'm away on holiday. The news show will continue. I'll be recording it from my hotel room because the news does not stop. And to be honest, I just have too much fun putting this show together each week. If you had fun today, then consider dropping the video a like, as that always helps out a bunch. And if you'd like to come back next week, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and ding the notification bell. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to stop by. I always do, and I'll see you on the flip side. Peace. It's never too late to switch things up. Look at me. A few years ago, I was chained to a desk doing corporate things. No disrespect to anyone who loves that, but it certainly wasn't making me happy. I've told this story in the past, but when I wanted to break into the games business, no one would hire me, so I decided to make my own website that focused on video game guides. Thing was, I had no idea how to build a website, so I spent a few $1,000s paying someone to build it, and the website was terrible. It wasn't the web designer's fault, it was entirely on me. My idea was very bad. The point of this story was that back then you had to pay someone thousands of dollars to build a website for your business idea, because that was pretty much the only way to get a website made. Not so today, because thankfully we now have Squarespace. Squarespace is the place to build almost any website you'll need. Want to sell handmade candles? You can build a website for that. Want to profile your art portfolio? You can build a website for that. Want to start writing gaming reviews and commentary to shoulder barge your way into the industry? You can build a website for that. Squarespace's intuitive tools allow you to build a professional-looking website in minutes, and their rich suite of advanced features allows you to promote and monetize your work so that you can earn a living from it. So if you're looking for a sea change, you're in luck, because not only is Squarespace free to get started with, but if you use offer code SKILLUP, you'll get 10% off your purchase of a domain name. Click the link below to get started. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.